His supporters tried to hold him back, and suddenly everybody was on their feet as a bit of a fight broke out on the floor of the Senate. Cicero...
Alright, we're back again with another historious civilist
When it was time to nominate candidates for the
Now, someone told me that I started this out of order, and it gave me like the whole freaking order. I don't know if that guy still watches me. If he doesn't, I'm still happy that he gave me it in proper order. So let us
of 63
get
B.C.E.
into this, man.
The conservatives in Rome were in a tough spot. Many of the older conservatives still had the stink of Sulla's reign of terror on them, which is this whole can of worms that I'm not going to get into today. And the generation that had come of
Oh, what was that about?
age after Sulla was still too young to be eligible for higher office. In desperation, the conservatives turned to this young senator from an unknown family named Marcus Tullius Cicero. Cicero was from a small town in central Italy and rose to prominence as a lawyer and later as a skilled administrator. Cicero was a citizen, but like not Roman in the sense of being from the city of Rome, and everybody could tell. His detractors would call him a foreigner and an immigrant for most of his life. Supporting Cicero was a bit of a gamble for the conservatives. He had a reputation for being a constitutionalist and for being against corruption and bribery, but he was still an outsider. Would he respect the Senate's prerogatives? What they didn't know at the time and what we know now is that Cicero favored stability and order and peace above all else.
Bruh, that sounds like the Galactic Empire. You know when Palpatine... Bro, when freaking Palpatine made that speech... Oh my god, dude, my nose itches. What the heck? My nose, freaking hell, my nose... Okay, but when Palpatine made that speech, when he formed Galactic Empire, this is what he basically said. And when freaking Anakin was talking to Obi-Wan, he was like, "Oh yeah, everyone should know that. If you don't know that, you're kind of weird."
They had all lived through this painful civil war, and Cicero believed that Rome's constitution was the best defense against another one. So the conservatives backed Cicero. It's not like they had much of a choice. The other two major candidates for consul that year were Catiline, aka Catiline, who was one of the leaders of the Reform faction, and Antonius, the uncle of Marcus Antonius, aka Mark Antony, Caesar's future right-hand man. Antonius was loosely aligned with the reformers, but in my opinion, just seemed like an ambitious idiot. More on him later. Cicero didn't have a lot of money to spend on this campaign, so he did something as old as politics itself. He attacked the character of his two opponents. He was particularly brutal when it came to Catiline. He accused him of deliberately stealing from non-Roman...
Wait, Catiline? That's a match? That sounds like a female name, because usually whenever a name ends with a, like you know, that usually implies that that does not sound masculine at all. Catalina. Bro, just call yourself Catalino, please.
During Sulla's dictatorship, which is just another way of saying, hey, non-Roman citizens, I'm one of you, vote for me. He constantly reminded voters that his opponents were complicit in the dictatorship, while Cicero had kept his hands clean. And even more, he accused both of them of being close friends with a young Julius Caesar, who was running for praetor that year and was already a very polarizing figure. Cicero also fought hard for the support of the wealthy business class. Some of the more radical reformers were making them nervous, and they were open to supporting someone like Cicero, promising stability. Cicero won in a landslide.
You're such a classic, dude. Oh, I bring peace, stability, and order. Oh my gosh, it's so cliche, man.
Antonius came second, and he would serve as Cicero's co-consul. He was less strongly associated with Sulla than Catiline was, which I think explains his win. Catiline was understandably upset by his third-place finish. He was arguably Rome's most prominent reformer. It was humiliating. He still had his seat in the Senate, but he immediately began preparing to run for consul again next year.
He didn't give up. I respect that.
Office in January of 63 BCE, he did something so...
I don't want to talk too much, because if I talk too much, I'm gonna miss information. This isn't like one of those, you know, like battles that I react to, right? This is more, I don't know how to describe it, but the point is, I'm not talking much because I don't want to like miss out information. So don't think that I'm like not doing anything. I'm taking in all of this.
So incredibly smart that I can't believe it didn't become common practice. He was assigned one of the best provinces to govern after his term, Macedonia. He went to Antonius and was like, hey, you want a trade? They negotiated a deal. If Antonius stayed out of Cicero's way all year, he could have Cicero's province. This is the last time you'll hear about Antonius in this video, but he was around, just doing whatever Cicero told him to do. The first major problem to confront Cicero is something we're all familiar with now: land reform. It was 4 years before Caesar's year as consul, and the land reform was still the perennial objective of the reformers. Cicero had no interest in bringing this issue up, but it was proposed by one of the new tribunes of the plebs. Cicero had to figure out how to deal with it.
Okay.
The actual bill was kind of similar to the land reform bills that Caesar would later pass, only smaller in scope. A commission, 10 members this time, were to buy up land and redistribute it via lottery to the urban poor. In order to pay for this, the commission was authorized to sell publicly owned land in Italy and abroad. At the time, Cicero thought that Caesar was secretly behind this bill, but he had no proof. Based on the similar...
Bro. So get it, land reform, good for the poor. But why are they so adamant about passing this reform? Because let's be real here, folks. It's very rare for someone to do something out of the goodness of their heart. So there has to be something in it for them. Why are they so adamant about passing this? Because I think in the last reaction that I did, when I reacted to Caesar, until someone told me that I kind of reacted to this out of order, he was talking about reform, like literally. Like, what is the big deal with land reform? Like, what is in it for them, for the people who are lobbying basically for this?
Similarities between this bill and the one that Caesar would later pass, we can look back with some hindsight and say that, yeah, he was probably right. Cicero did everything he could to turn public opinion against this bill. He went around stirring up old fears, calling the 10 commissioners the 10 kings. He did his job, because the Senate voted down the bill and there was very little public backlash. The downside of all of this is that the reformers now saw Cicero as an arch-conservative, which honestly he really wasn't. He was an institutionalist, and his problem with land reform was just that it was destabilizing. Cicero may have been consul, but he was still a lawyer at heart. He spent a lot of time in the courts during his year, serving as the defense attorney in 2 major cases. The first was some really stupid case where some of the reformers accused a conservative senator of a murder 37 years ago. It was a big, stupid, politically motivated thing. The guy was innocent and everybody knew it. Cicero saw it as his duty as consul to defend the senator. The case ended just as stupidly as it began, when Cicero and his allies deliberately caused a mistrial by using some arcane legal nonsense. The guy got off, but I mean, if you ask me, nobody really walked away from it looking particularly great.
Yeah,
Cicero's second legal case will come later, but first he had to oversee the elections for next year's consuls.
Okay.
Cicero learned from his intelligence network, or more accurately, I would say his wife's intelligence network, that Catiline, the guy who came in...
Wife's intelligence network? Huh? Well, he didn't go into detail about that. How does his wife have an intelligence network? Is she screwing around? I don't know. Hey, bro, a lot of chicks, they do that, like they give themselves up. You know what? I don't want to, keeping it PG, but you know what I mean when I say a lot of chicks give themselves up for stuff, depending on the situation.
Third last year, and was a candidate again this year, was plotting a series of assassinations on election day. When election day came, Cicero openly wore body armor, something you weren't really supposed to do, and showed up with a gang of bodyguards. For whatever reason, maybe the assassins were intimidated by this show of force, violence was averted. Cicero over...
Oh my gosh, bro. Nah. Bro cooked. He cooked. He cooked, bro. He cooked, bro. Let him cook, bro. Let him cook. And nah, bro. He showed up in body armor. Nah. Square. Basically saying square up.
Foresaw the election of his two
Square
successors. And in a cruel twist of fate, Catiline came in third again. Apparently, he pretty much bankrupted himself paying out bribes. He didn't have the means to run for consul a third time.
Well,
Cicero's second legal case came up after the elections and was a lot more consequential. One of the losers of the consular election was accusing one of the winners of bribery and wanted the results thrown out. This had the potential of being really destabilizing. Bribing people during elections was very illegal and very common. Everybody.
And this is why, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you lobby, right? America has a legal way of bribing people. It's ridiculous how, like, they teach it in school, but so many people gloss over this. And this is known as lobbying, right? I see so many people complain that, oh my gosh, why is the economy so bad? Why is the economy so bad? Well, because nobody cares about politics in America, right? And these lobbyists who are being paid up by these big tech corporations, they don't give a blast about the common folk. This is why everything is getting worse for the common folk, because the lobbyists are being paid so much money. I'm talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, man, to go and lobby for these big companies like Boeing, for example. Do you know how much Boeing pays to lobby, or like these restaurant companies pay to lobby in Congress, which is literally a legal way of bribing people to get their favor. I don't want to say favor. What's the political way of saying get their, like, let's say Boeing wants, let's say, I don't know, America wants to expand its railroad, right? And this is a real fact, by the way. This is real. This is a real fact. So if you live in America, listen closely. America wants to expand its railroad, for example. Boeing or any airline company would realize, oh shoot, if America expands its railroad, we're gonna have less flights and we're gonna make less money. So let's go and lobby, aka bribe people, to advocate Congress and the government to stop those plans to expand the railroad so that we can keep making our money, right? That's an actual real example of that. So that's basically what lobbying is. And well, yeah, that's why everything sucks. That's why the economy sucks. But that's a whole different thing. Let's continue.
But he did it. Cicero had even campaigned against bribery, while his conservative backers continued to bribe everybody behind the scenes. It wasn't escapable. Cicero's logic was, if we start throwing out election results because of bribery, every future election would be followed by a court case. He chose to lead the defense. Cato, the arch-conservative, represented the prosecution. It got ugly. Cato went on and on about how corruption and bribery had seeped into Roman public life, which all happened to be true. Cicero responded by not addressing the facts of the case because, again, the defendant was definitely guilty, and just mocked Cato to his face. He called his philosophy silly. He called him unrealistic. He even made an obnoxious appeal to nationalism, saying something along the lines of, "This isn't Greece. Here in Rome, things get messy, but things get done." Cicero won the case, but ugh, gross. After this, in a kind of symbolic gesture,
I don't even know what to say. It's like, is this really how they acted? Like, is this actually how they acted? Kind of wild to me that this is how they actually acted. Like, this is how the Romans in the Senate acted.
To prove that he wasn't pro-bribery, Cicero introduced and passed a law that increased the punishment for blatant bribery to up to 10 years of exile. Again, this was symbolic and more of a message to future candidates,
system,
saying, okay guys, pull back on the bribery a bit, it's getting out of control.
I like this system, honestly.
In October, after all of the turmoil with the elections was finally put to rest, Crassus, a senator from the Reform faction, came to see Cicero. He showed Cicero a letter he had received, telling him of a secret plan to overthrow the government, masterminded by Catiline. Around the same time, Cicero started to hear reports of a small army mustering north of Rome. These two things had to be linked. Cicero presented his evidence to the Senate and placed Catiline under house arrest. As a precaution, the Senate passed a law called the Senatus Consultum Ultimum, aka the final decree or the final act.
Bro, Catalina, you cannot cook. Catalina just keeps taking L after L after L.
Which empowered the consuls to do whatever was necessary to defend the Republic. Think of it as a form of martial law. Cicero's wife's spies learned that one night, Catiline slipped his guards and attended a meeting where, again, a plot was hatched to assassinate Cicero. After learning of this,
how many plots to kill this guy am I going to hear? And Catalina just can't stop taking L's. Bro, I hate that name. I hate the fact that it's a guy, bro. I swear, every time I hear Catalina, bro, I keep thinking it's a woman.
Cicero put his home on lockdown, and his gang of bodyguards wouldn't let anybody through without the right password. This seems pretty basic to us, but Roman homes were normally open to the public, and the act of giving a password like this was a well-known military tradition. Cicero basically transformed his home into a military encampment. The symbolism wasn't lost on anybody.
This is so surreal that, like, this is low-key goofy. Oh, what's the password? Like, that is so goofy. I mean, if it works, but it's so goofy, man. Let's continue.
At the next meeting of the Senate, Cicero put forward a bill to banish Catiline. He was empowered to do whatever he deemed necessary under the final act, but he wanted to...
Why not kill him? Like, actually, why not kill him? This guy has literally had so many plans to kill Cicero, and Cicero can't kill him? Like, I can't... This is hurting my brain. He's been thwarted so many times, and he literally had so much proof that he wants to kill Cicero, and he wants to banish him. Bro, the politics in this system is just weird. This is weird, bro.
To stay on the same side as the Senate. Unfortunately, nobody wanted to put themselves on the record against Catiline. Cicero, realizing that he had misread the room, quickly switched tactics and was like, okay, how about we banish this random other senator instead? The Senate was like, but he did nothing wrong. And Cicero was like, aha, so you admit Catiline did something wrong. Not
genius. Reverse psychology. Oh, yo. Oh, that is so smart. That is so smart. This is probably one of the smartest, if not the smartest, psychology tactics that I have seen someone.
Cicero.
Oh my gosh.
In the end,
that is definitely one of the finest moments I've ever reacted to.
He was right though, because Catiline fled the city that night and joined up with the army in the north, and declared himself the head of the new government in waiting. The situation was now on the precipice of civil war.
Kill the guy
Sometime
when
later,
you find
one
him.
of Catiline's allies...
Okay, Catiline is just gonna go and take another L. Just kill the guy.
In the city, went to a diplomat from a Gallic tribe visiting Rome and was like, hey, we're gonna overthrow the government, let's team up. The diplomat went directly to Cicero and reported to him what had happened. Cicero was like, no, go along with it. Now he had a spy on the inside of the conspiracy.
What? This is what I said. This is weird. So a Gallic tribe is passing along, and Catiline tells them, hey, let's go overthrow these people. The Gallic tribe says no, even though back then this is kind of what people do, to just go raid places. Why didn't they go along with it? Why didn't they raid them? Were they just peaceful? And they just went and tell. Oh my gosh, dude, this is so weird. I guys, believe me, like, I don't know much about Roman history. This is why I'm like trying to like react to it, because I don't know much about Roman history, and this is just so bloody weird. Like, they just went and tell him, hey, yeah, these people told me that I should go overthrow you. Like, why not help him? Why not? Like, wouldn't it be better for them to help him? Like, you get to raid villages and whatnot. Like, oh my gosh, dude. This whole thing is just surreal that this is canon. The fact that this is canon is just crazy. Bloody hell, man.
The diplomat set up a big meeting with a bunch of conspirators to coordinate their plans. And when everybody showed up, Cicero was there with his bodyguards, and all of the traitors were arrested. Cicero went before the Senate and said that he wanted these guys put to death. His argument was that the city was a powder keg, and they had no way of knowing how deep the conspiracy went.
Just
if they executed these leaders, it might be enough to put an end to the whole rebellion and avert a war. Remember, the Senate had already...
This guy has literally tried to kill this guy so many times. I almost said the N-word there just now. Oh my gosh. This guy has literally tried to kill this guy so much, and yet they're still debating on this? What? What? Okay.
Empowered Cicero to do whatever was necessary to keep the Republic safe, so he was not required to get the Senate's permission for any of this. But Cicero believed in the Senate, and he didn't want to go against their wishes. Both of the incoming consuls agreed with Cicero.
Okay, so this is like how in very similar. This reminds me of how in Russia, right? Putin, Mr. Putin, or Vladdy Daddy, has this, you know, the supreme power. But, you know, I was actually reading one of my comments on one of my on my last videos, and one of my Russian viewers basically said, yeah, well, not Russian viewers, but somebody basically said, how when the Roman Empire became an empire, they still called itself a republic, but kind of like how in Russia is like technically a republic, Putin controls every aspect of it in a way. But what I noticed about this is that despite the fact that Putin still controls kind of sort of every aspect of it, he still kind of sort of listen to what the people have to say, because, well, at the end of the day, he's kind of still at the mercy of the Russian people, right? So he kind of still has to listen to them. Yes, sure, he has power, but that's because the Russian people haven't decided to get up and just overthrow him. And as long as he keeps, you know, making things better, and he keeps considering, you know, their aspects, you know, it's just something similar, not exactly the same, but, you know, he has, you know, the power to like not listen to the Senate, but the Senate just has such an influence that he still has to consider it. It's the kind of the same thing like in Russia, you know? So this is why whenever I hear people say, oh, Mr. Putin, he just has unlimited power. Yes, but at the same time, no. Let's continue.
Cicero put the prisoners to death. All of the ex-consuls agreed as well. So did all of the praetors. When it came time for the incoming praetors to weigh in, Julius Caesar rose to speak. Caesar argued that executing these men was...
Caesar! The man, the myth, the legend himself, Julius Caesar! Sorry.
Without a trial was an authoritarian thing to do, and it set a dangerous precedent for the future.
Whoa,
He
Caesar!
suggested that instead they should be sentenced to life imprisonment. This argument made Cicero suspicious. Remember, Caesar was friends with Catiline. How much was he involved in all of this? But Caesar's appeal...
Oh, no. Caesar, what are you cooking, bro? This is not a good look for you, Caesar. This is not a good look for you, Caesar. What are you cooking? Let's see what Caesar is cooking.
Against authoritarianism was well received by the Senate, and a majority of them began to come around to his idea of imprisonment. After they heard speeches from all of the ex-praetors, aediles, ex-aediles, and quaestors, they finally got all the way down to the ex-quaestors, which was when Cato got to speak. Cato was only 32 years old at this time, but he was already cultivating one hell of a reputation. He chastised the Senate for putting the entire Republic at risk for the sake of their weak stomachs. Cato, for once in his life, urged them to be pragmatic. He argued that eliminating the threat and preserving the Republic was the highest priority, and if the Senate woke up tomorrow to find the city in flames, they would have nobody to blame but themselves. The mood in the Senate shifted yet again. Cato had convinced them. A vote was called, and the Senate voted in favor of executing the prisoners.
Everybody is just shifting. This is so gullible. This is like women, bro. These are men, but they're acting like women who are so gullible. Then again, I can't even be talking because, you know what? I don't know, man. I've seen men being so gullible too, so I don't know. I don't even know if this is a women thing.
Caesar went into a frenzy. He started screaming and launched himself at the opposition. His supporters tried to hold him back, and suddenly everybody was on their feet as a bit of a fight broke out on the floor of the Senate. Cicero.
Oh my god. Bro. This is kind of similar to how in Barbados, right? My country, right? I have seen videos of our parliament. The people will be like cursing each other out. I don't know if they still do this, but yo, parliament's gonna be crazy, bro. Honestly, I remember I watched a compilation of craziest parliament moments. Guys, people think politics is boring. No, American politics is boring. Okay, American politics is boring. If you have seen what other parliaments are like, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Cicero called for his bodyguards. They entered, swords drawn, and surrounded the senators. There was a tense standoff.
Whoa.
After a beat, Caesar turned and stormed out of the Senate House. He would not return again while Cicero was consul. Let me pause here for a moment. Understand how shocking this was. Swords were forbidden inside the city of Rome, but at some point, Cicero had secretly armed his men. Even more shocking was the fact that there was almost bloodshed on the floor of the Senate, and it was almost Caesar's blood.
Oh my. Oh, yo. Oh. Like I said, I don't want to curse, bro, but like, if I say something, I'm gonna curse.
Sit with that for a minute. Cicero left the Senate, followed by a horde of senators, and went to retrieve all of the prisoners from the homes where they were being locked up. He led them down to the Roman jail. Side note, I just learned this, the jail was actually an old converted cistern, like for holding water, so you could only enter it through the roof. Pretty cool. Anyway, Cicero and the senators led the prisoners onto the roof of the jail. One by one, they tied nooses around their necks and had them jump in. After the last conspirator was dead, Cicero turned to the crowd and announced what he had just done. When the rebel army to the north heard what had happened to their leaders, most of them fled. The Senate sent an army of their own to deal with them, and it was just a one-sided slaughter. Catiline and the rest of the leaders of the conspiracy died on the battlefield. The Senate declared that for his actions, Cicero was to be honored with the title of Father of the Republic. At this point, Cicero's term was nearly over, but for his remaining days as consul, a crowd would follow him wherever he went, cheering and applauding. Cicero would consistently call this the proudest moment of his life.
Nothing too crazy that I haven't, like, compared to the other stuff that I've reacted to. This was very tame, right? This is extremely tame, but this was a good video. This was a good video. I didn't really like say too much because, you know, I was trying to like process all of this information, but you know, the stuff where I did say stuff, you know, I said it, you know. Anyway, check out these videos that are appearing on your screen right now. If you like my reaction, make sure you subscribe because you've made it all the way to the end of the video. If not, go check out my other videos on my YouTube channel. Make sure to like. It takes 1 second, guys. 1 second, and it helps YouTube keep my videos on the algorithm. and it keeps my channel not getting shadow banned again, because that was a very awful period of time. If you have any suggestions, make sure to comment it down below. I definitely have to start doing more suggested videos. Like I know y'all have suggestions, but like, believe me, like, I'm going to get to it. Okay, like, I'm going to get to it. I definitely have to do more. I will get to it. Damn, I just had a belch there for a second. But thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more, and goodbye.